So thanks Tim for being with us. We've just got a few questions and hoping you can tell us about the Gather In projects. So firstly, could you just introduce yourself and tell me about how you became involved with the CCT?
So I'm Tim Senior, and I'm the co-founder and director of Supersum. So we're a wicked problems agency. Wicked problems are the type of problem that can't be solved by sort of conventional responses within one sector or discipline. So they're the kind of problem that needs new ways of working together. I've always been very interested in medieval architecture, particularly how medieval sites become reinvented across generations and weaved into different narratives and fabrics. But I've been looking for a while for a wicked problem project that combines those interests in medieval history, but also creative economy and community innovation. And the Gather In project came out of that. And so I approached Ed and we made a start. Yeah. And it's a project that's at the heart, I think, of what CCT does. How can CCT sites be part of thriving, creative, resilient communities by working with the unique qualities each of these churches has to offer?
Exactly, yeah, it's strategic pillar number 2 for the Churches Conservation Trust.
There you go.
Supporting communities to love and use their church. So can you tell me, because I know you're working with some partner organisations on this, not just the Churches Conservation Trust, can you tell me a bit about them and what their different roles are in the project?
Yes, absolutely. That characteristic of wicked problems, that you need lots of different partners involved, that's absolutely true when it comes to CCT church futures. So with Supersum, as an organisation, I'm using it as an umbrella to bring in those different voices. So in the Gather In project, sort of over the last 2 years or so, we've had undergraduate innovation groups involved, we've had medievalists involved, we've had creative technologists involved, the communities themselves, and it's allowed us to sort of bring together expertise from lots of different places. UE, University of Bristol, but also Newcastle University are part of this project in different ways. And that means under that umbrella, we can have those conversations around church futures that pulls those different angles together. And I think really what's at the heart of that, the thing that matters most is those different perspectives being brought into the same conversation. It's a form of co-design, if you like, one where there isn't any one body of knowledge that trumps any other body of knowledge. You know, the insight into church futures on the ground within a community is just as important as what a social scientist could bring, or a medievalist, or someone involved in social innovation. So it's trying to build that sort of flat hierarchy, if you like, involving all those different voices.
Yeah, I love the fact that some of these partners that you've been bringing in, you know, this new point of view as well. They've been incredibly kind of enthusiastic and excited about these buildings, which some of the communities themselves, they just can't see that excitement anymore. You know, so I think the injection of fresh perspectives has been brilliant. You've undertaken research on the communities surrounding 2 CCT churches, and particularly St Nicholas's Brockley. You just tell me quickly about the different approaches that you've taken for understanding the communities around them, and kind of the methods for using those different forms of research.
Yeah. It's not easy to step into someone else's village, someone else's life, and this has to be done with I think great care, great respect. It involves building trust, and when you're dealing with something as complex as not only the future of CCT churches, but essentially the future of communities, which comes down to the same question essentially. You have to take a lot of different approaches to find what works really. So we've tried a lot of different things. We've adopted some formal social science methods, using things like a snowball technique, where you start with one person to interview and then they choose the next person and so on. So you can weave those more interesting paths to people you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. We've certainly done tower cleaning, dealing with dead animals and a lot of poop, and that's fine. It's fun, in fact. We've done leafleting campaigns, trying to reach people who aren't part of the usual crowd involved in churches, sort of have your say events and sessions. We've just finished running 7 quite intensive workshops at one site, Brockley, which we'll talk about later, using design thinking methods to map social assets, explore taboos around church usage and so on. We've put on a concert of early Renaissance music as a way of exploring the affordances of church spaces. We've supported an undergraduate innovation team to look at issues around fatalism and rural communities, a sort of fatalism task force. And all of these provide a different way into that same challenge. You know, a formal interview with someone will reveal a very different facet to what will be uncovered when you have a casual chat, you know, in the church itself. And it's that diversity of approach that really matters, I think. So we've tried lots of different things, and we'll continue to try lots of different things. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got a classic job interview question for you now. Can you tell me about one success and a learning that you've had from doing this project?
I'm particularly excited about the work we've been doing in Brockley, and this was Supersum's first project back in January 2020, and we've only managed to really bring this to a close of the first stage before Christmas. It's with COVID, it's taken that long to really get going. So we've run 7 workshops there. We've introduced a new piece of interactive audio technology to help record and share conversations in a more relaxed and informal way. It's a piece of slow technology is the term. And we've also been introducing ideas from the long history of the church into that wicked problem of how can we have these empty churches active again within their communities. And through those workshops, we've been talking about the messaging of the church. We've thought about the organization of church friends groups and how they might be integrated into their own communities in a different way. We've tackled those sort of conceptual barriers around what a church is for, and we've asked really what a church can be beyond just a space. Essentially, what can a church be where it's an active agent in its own community? And I think we've all gone into that with no firm idea of what was going to come out of it. We've all learned something along the way, and I think together we're starting to develop a new type of placemaking model that really is about broadening and diversifying participation in church futures, and may lay the foundation for more sustainable working. And really at the heart of that is showing that when you're talking about building healthy, resilient communities, with the CCT site at the center of that, everyone has something to bring to the table. So it's really been about broadening those conversations and building a place-making model centered on the church, but that recognizes how the whole community is involved. So that's been really exciting to develop, and we're starting to take that further now in the coming weeks.
Great. I'm really excited. You touched there on kind of the slow technology and the you said the long histories. Why do you think understanding the long history of a building is important to how that building is used in the future?
So this really has been a fascinating process. We all have our own conceptions of what churches are about, who they're for, how you can use them. And it really is only when you look at the long history over 800 years that the full richness of what a church can be, has been, might be again, comes to light, I think. And we've identified 5 really strong concepts from that long history, which are changing the way we as a group think about the future of Brockley Church. I'll just give one example. We've looked at the patronage model of St. Nicholas, the patron saint of the church. We've looked at how in that long history, St. Nicholas has become patron saint of well over 100 different groups. And what that reflects is a community getting behind its patron saint in a way that really works for them, or captures what's most meaningful about the story of St. Nicholas according to their own needs. And that enormous diversity of groups with St. Nicholas as patron saint, I think reflects those different needs within the model of gifting and redeeming value, which is what St. Nicholas is all about. And we've asked how that can change the way the Church Friends Group might work in Brockley. Rather than asking people what they can do for the church, that model looks very different, right? The question becomes, what is it that you love doing? What is it that you love doing and that you want to share, and how can we help you do it? So everyone has a gift to offer, in essence. The Church's Friends gift is the use of the church. And it's really opened up the conversations we have around church's space, but also church's refuge, church's point on a pathway, but also the church as an investor in its own community. And we started mapping out how that redeeming value component can follow different time courses and reflect different types of value: cultural, social, financial. And it's that full range of values within that gifting and redeeming model that we feel could be a more sustainable foundation for something like a Church Friends Group in Brockley. I think the bigger point that's it's sort of been striking to me is it's very easy to look at empty churches and see it as a crisis of modernity. One that needs a break from the past in order to find new solutions. And in a way that feels like a non-starter, simply because you dispose of everything that previous generations have drawn on as a strength. You know, you render yourself lost and fearful of the future in some way. What you see before you, especially in rural communities, is an aging demographic, loss of social assets, and there's no end to it. The long history helps you reframe that. It helps you reframe that as a form of adaptation and resilience. That has always been the case, right? It's new futures for churches that are a continuation of what they've always done. So in a way, you aren't alone, right? You're drawing on your own history and your own heritage as a community to build the kind of future that's going to work for you. So we have the frame of that model. We have a long way to go, but it's adopting that long history and involving slow technology in that process as well feels like a very rich source for new ways of working.
Yeah, such an interesting approach, and turning a lot of ways that I've thought previously on working with communities on their heads. So it's been a great experience for me. Finally, I mean, people listening to this might be interested into trying out something like this themselves, and thinking how they can bring fresh perspective to their buildings and try new things out in this way. What simple steps might you recommend to any volunteers at these are particularly rural churches that we've been dealing with, who want to start encouraging engagement in this way and want to find new supporters or new uses for the building, or just get the community a bit more interested and active? What would you recommend?
I mean, firstly, I'm really really looking forward to finding out from other volunteers what they're doing, and we need a lot of different approaches to make this work. I think one thing that's come from that model of St. Nicholas, which we're working on, is just finding out what people around you love doing. It's almost as simple as that. It's not always clear what the connection is going to be between what someone loves doing and what they might offer as a gift, and how the church can support them. But we've certainly started finding it's quite amazing what connection you can draw. So just finding out what people love doing and what they want to do, what they want to offer, rather than what they can offer you according to your own needs as a church, I think that's a really fruitful first step, because there'll be a lot of surprising things which emerge in a way that could be mutually beneficial to all involved in terms of different types of value.
One thing I can reflect on is it definitely helps to have a very skilled facilitator and very enthusiastic and dynamic facilitator at the centre of it in you. But yeah, where I think what you suggested there, people just speak to their communities around them and just find out what their interests are and how potentially that can be brought back to the church. And maybe it can't, but in many cases, I think it can. So thank you, Tim. I mean, that's the end of my questions. Did you have anything else that you wanted to get in?
Well, I think just emphasising this point that churches have in that long history always depended on lots of different people, right? Whether it's the individual, a community, different parts of communities, a philanthropist, church authorities, you name it. There's always been a role for lots of different people in the future of our churches, and that's no different now. And there is no one person who has an answer to this. And CCT is really well placed to support those incredibly insightful, broader conversations between lots of different people, and understanding how, even though every CCT site is unique and will have something unique to offer, together what you reveal is the broader changes around, say, the economy, around loneliness, around demographics, that's relevant to all CCT sites. And it's that broadening of the conversation at multiple CCT sites where you can gain that specific insight, but also that broader, scalable insight. And CCT is really well placed to engage those pluralist conversations. So it's exciting to be part of this.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And yeah, it's exciting to continue to be working with Supersum on this. Thank you very much, Dr. Tim Senior.